It is so nice to hear you guys talk. I just want to say how much I value both of you, and you too, Julia. It's just so nice to come out of the craziness that is the world and have you guys there. It's really a highlight of my life. So thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Back at you.
Hello, and welcome to Castle of Horror, the show dedicated to horror movies and awesomeness. This week, we continue our Night Stalker retrospective with the 1973 telefilm, The Night Strangler. This film is so important to me as a human. From Denver, Colorado, I'm your host, Jason Henderson, writer of the book, The Bookman. I'm going to do that again. From Denver, Colorado, I'm your host, Jason Henderson, writer of the book, Night of the Bookman, from my alter ego, Peyton Douglas. With me from Austin is Tony Salvaggio, tech director at Rooster Teeth, lead singer and bassist of the band Deserts of Mars, and lead guitarist of the band Rise from Fire. Say hello, Tony.
Howdy.
Howdy. Also in Austin, Mr. Drew Edwards is the writer-creator of the long-running underground comic Halloween Man, currently published by Comixology. He is a winner of a 2018 Best of Austin Award from the Austin Chronicle and a member of the PEN America Fellowship, and newly a nominee for a Ringo Award. Welcome, Drew.
News.
Yes. You know, by the way, can you hear? I'm excited tonight. I'm really waving my arms as I talk, and it makes me feel free. And finally, in Denver, as always, color commentary from attorney Julia Guzman of Guzman Immigration of Denver. Say hello.
Hola, ¿qué tal?
Hola, ¿qué tal? Okay, The Night Strangler proved almost as popular as its predecessor, which we talked about last week. Got strong ratings, and it led to there being a television series. In this film, Carl Kolchak, who last we saw leaving Las Vegas, has now turned up in Seattle, where he has a very exciting adventure, very similar to the Night Stalker, but now hunting a person who appears to reattack every couple of decades, and it manages to bring in some historic parts of Seattle. And this was a very, very memorable television film. So let's get our opening thoughts, and let's mix it up from last week. Let's get Tony, Julia, Drew, and then I'll go. Tony, what are your opening thoughts about The Night Strangler?
Oh, I dig it. Kolchak's pretty awesome. He's, although there's about 200% more "you're a loose cannon" Kolchak yelling in this one. There's a lot of that, which is entertaining. It does sort of follow the formula. It's cool to kind of follow him from city to city. You really get the impression of what's going to kind of what's in the series. He's the very much the known quantity in what you're going to get, right?
Yeah.
Down to his, this was of a time. So when he's describing things like, how fast the girl can shake her hips and such. Yeah. Also, Kolchak's down with the seedy side of town everywhere he goes. I guess you kind of have to if you're finding monsters, right? It's a totally different thing than like where Scooby-Doo and the Scooby Gang may go to the broken down part of town, but they're not like in the red district, right? Well,
right.
But
they don't know the hustlers who are actually there,
right?
Yeah.
So I really dig it. It was fun, but again, there's a lot of the speech volume is increased.
Yeah.
By a lot.
Yeah.
And is him and Vincenzo on road trips. That's pretty great.
Fabulous. All right, Julia, what about you? What are your opening thoughts? Night Strangler.
Oh my gosh, I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was super funny. Like, I just kept laughing at all the and intentionally so. I mean, the jokes were just great. And the actual story is really interesting, and I kept being like, wait, what? No way. But there's so many lines that I are just little scenes. I actually decided to make notes about a few of them to pop in. But just for example, the character of he goes down to the morgue or whatever to talk to the medical examiner, and he brings him scotch, so he'll give him more information. and the guy just dumps out whatever specimens he has in these 2 specimen cups. Like, here's a cup for you. It's like, no thanks.
Yes.
I just thought the whole thing, everything was just funny. There were so many funny things. The people
Oh.
looking at them in the Space Needle elevator when he's talking about vampires and how that guy was a vampire, and they're all like, "What the hell?" It's just very clever and very interesting, and the character. I love the actors. I love that you've got the Wicked Witch of the West and Grandpa Munster and what's his name from
John
Million Dollar
Carradine?
Man. No, but and John Carradine, yeah.
Yeah, Richard Anderson. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
played
but
Oscar
it's
Goldman in the
Oscar
Million
Goldman.
Dollar
That's what I
Man.
was trying to come up with.
Yeah.
Yes, great cast, really fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, all that and a Universal Dracula too. It's amazing.
All that stuff too, where between him and the researcher feels
both
they're both larger than life versions of that, but also not too far off from reality.
Sure.
And I think that's what really makes it good. Because when you're a mortician, when you're working a morgue, I mean, you kind of have to be inured to that.
Yeah.
And you kind of, all of that works. And having a researcher whose whole thing is like, wait, I'm on a case now? Yes. Yeah. You're going to give it your all. All that stuff is just great.
He's wonderful. That guy is Wally Cox, by the way.
Yeah. He's great. He's fabulous. I love that they pack these movies to the gills with character actors that you recognize. If you watch TV and movies from this era, it's gold.
Wally Cox, Drew, I got to go to you, but I just want to mention that Wally Cox died a month, almost to the day after this movie came out. And it's just unfortunate. He wasn't very old. He was only 48, but just heart trouble. So that's how they get you. Drew, what are your thoughts?
I really like this one. I'm a fan of both of the movies. I feel like this one, if I'm comparing it, since I have to, since we just watched the last one, I feel like the first one has maybe slightly stronger, more poignant script because there's this sort of political undertone to that. This one has a more breezy quality to it. It is a lot funnier. I also think it's less scary. However, there is stuff that I think is better. I think Kolchak's like the sort of romantic relationship, if you want to call it that, is a lot. His romantic foil has a lot more personality in this movie. And I think because you actually had Dan Curtis behind the camera this time, I think that it is a much nicer looking, nicer shot, and at times more atmospheric movie. And, some of that might have to do with setting. When you go from Las Vegas to Seattle, of course, you're going to have a lot more opportunity for atmosphere, simply because Seattle is the rainy city of Seattle. But I really also like both of the movies, but I think in particular this one plays up the sort of, I get maybe Matheson as a scripter, I don't know, but there's an affection for people who are on the outer rims of society. Like you have, exotic dancers, you have Kolchak himself, who is kind of establishment, but he's also kind of counterculture in a weird way. And I think, that's in both of the movies, but I guess because so much time is spent with exotic dancers in this movie, you really feel that. And I dig that about it. I think that's a cool perspective, and it's interesting that so much of America was so ready to maybe embrace that on at least a subconscious level back in the 1970s. The villain in this one is interesting too. I think he has more of a personality once we finally get to him than the vampire, who's basically monosyllabic. But I think they're both really fun movies. It's kind of hard for me to pick a favorite between the two. but I definitely think they both had their good points and their bad points, but well, not bad, but better points, I guess. I don't know, I'm not phrasing this right, but I did really enjoy revisiting these two so close to each other, and it was certainly nice making a basis of comparison between the two.
It does give you a chance to compare and contrast and see what's changed a little bit. For me, opening thought, this, as I mentioned last week, I don't think I ever watched The Night Stalker. It was just something that turned up in books that I got that were about horror movies, and they'd say, "Oh, Night Stalker's so good," but I never saw it because you couldn't predict when something was going to come on TV. But I did catch The Strangler, and it was so important to me because of the concept of going to the newspaper morgue and finding somebody there and like looking up what you could and it makes me wonder actually if they did the newspaper morgue bit in the TV series, and maybe I have seen some of the TV series, because that had such a profound effect on me as a kid, and the just that doing research was something on the level of like Indiana Jones to me. How cool that could be to go somewhere and pull up information that nobody else had connected yet, which is exactly what Wally Cox says. Wally Cox has a whole monologue about the importance of research that nobody else is, that's where the meat is, he says, is in history. It's really cool. So yes, Dan Curtis is directing this time, and we should get into it. We open up. Kolchak is now in Seattle and apparently has been there for a very short time, and the cast sort of circles around him because Tony Vincenzo, who is played by Simon Oakland, the same dude from he was working for in Vegas, has now turned up and taken a job working for a newspaper that is owned by Dracula, by John Carradine, and hires him. And yes, it's exactly what Tony said. The Dan Curtis, who, it's funny because there wasn't a lot of like crazy yelling on Dark Shadows, but in this movie, it's like he took the George Lucas school of directing, faster, more intense. Everybody just yells their lines all the time when they're in the newspaper office. But the funny thing is, it's infectious. I mean, yeah, it has nothing to do with, if you met Carl Kolchak, I hope that he wouldn't yell all the time like this. But it's very cool and funny in the course of the story.
It's something I was just thinking about when you were talking about not knowing where you're going to see these and like the nature of, because I obviously I'm a little bit too young to have seen this when it was originally aired. Yeah. I saw both this and the both movies and the TV show on Nick at Night when they ran
really
for a few weeks, during Halloween season. And like the fickleness of cable television, at the time, about how like certain stuff that's in your nostalgia bubble has to come from what you happened upon. Because kids these days, it's going to be different because they can choose what they watch, whereas everything up to a certain point, you kind of had to just luck out that there was going to be a marathon or something like that. And if I had not somehow seen the Kolchak stuff, I might not have had this interest in it.
Interesting.
And I actually have very particularly strong memories of this because we were at my family's lake house when I was watching these, and I always thought watching movies in the lake house was a lot creepier because the lake house had just like a creepy vibe. So
it does. It sounds like something straight out of Count Yorga, because I'm picturing like a 70s lake house with like shag carpet everywhere.
Know it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm not. That's not a judgment, mind you. I'm not trying to say that it's worse that kids have the option of watching whatever they want. But I do think it's interesting. When I talk to people within my relative age group, how whatever they're nostalgic about, it's usually something they just sort of came upon. Because there was particularly Generation X, which I'm on the very tail end of, is a generation that was very much raised by television.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think the boomers were pretty well raised by television as well, but we had better television. That's for sure. I mean, honestly, more channels. all that stuff. I mean, yeah, you said something profound, because I'm thinking about how your personality gets shaped by the stuff that you just stumble across, right? And I definitely stumbled across the Night Strangler some Saturday afternoon, just running on cable or whatever in the 80s. And I stumbled across Hammer Horror after coming back from Six Flags, probably when I was like 10 or 11 years old, right? And so those are perfect, because they just come into your life, and somehow that marks you. You're like, this is going to be, this multicolored thing somehow is going to become just part of the weird vocabulary of my consciousness. And that is very strange, because also it means that you become very forgiving, by the way, of whatever it is that you stumble across. And other people go, oh, I don't know if that holds up, or it's cheesy, or it's whatever. And you can't listen to that at all for the stuff that is actually important to you. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't compute. Anyway, just like with the last movie, this movie begins narrated by Carl. Carl Kolchak, as we mentioned, is a guy who really enjoys his light-colored, lightweight fabrics. Because he's walking around all the time. He is and in this movie, even more than the last one, the characters in the movie are more aware that Carl Kolchak is a man out of time. Like Vincenzo makes a joke, and I don't even remember what it was, but he looks like a roadshow out of a Broadway show. He looks like somebody's classic idea of a reporter. And we open with Carl narrating that there's some killings going on in Seattle, which soon Carl is investigating himself. And those killings, Drew, give us the main elements, if you can, of the killings happening in Seattle for this.
As the last one, they are mostly young women. In particular, in this one, they for some reason are exotic dancers or belly dancers.
Mm-hmm.
The women are strangled to the point of having their necks crushed. Thus the title. Then a amount of blood is taken by a syringe through the base of the skull. And later on, it is revealed, this is a very important plot point, that there is flecks of skin embedded in the neck that appear to be taken from a corpse.
Yeah. Okay. So here's something weird. I actually grew up with this damn word strangler very much in the air. Was anybody else aware of the sort of constant use of the word strangler when you were a kid? It may be that I'm the only old person here, but Julia, strangler showing up a lot when you were a kid?
What I think of is the Salem Strangler, because I watched Days of Our Lives.
Aha!
So that's what comes to mind for me.
And that was in the 80s, right? The Salem Strangler, or the 90s?
Mm-hmm. I think
okay,
80s.
So the Boston Strangler dude shows up in the 60s, and so that's just the decade before this movie's made, right? But it was that he killed 13 people, and then there was the movie, which was very much on the air when I was a kid. So, Richard Matheson sits out to write a sequel to The Night Stalker. And as the basic concept, he doesn't pull his punches. He goes straight for a name and a crime that people will super remember. And I'm not offended by this. I'm just saying he does.
Originally, he was going to use Jack the Ripper. And then he was too worried about pissing off Robert Bloch, because he was concerned that it was going to be too much like the story Yours Truly, Jack the Ripper.
Really?
And so that's when they went into the direction that they did. And I think it's better that it's not Jack the Ripper. I think that I think that the fact that they have a mostly original concept here is kind of cool.
It's very cool, and because. And it fools you in a sense, because like I say, it begins and you think you're like in the territory of, oh sure, it's a strangler, like the Boston Strangler that just happened less than 10 years ago, and then it turns out there's something weird and supernatural about it, which is the universe of Carl Kolchak. This is the other thing that I wanted to ask about before we get deeper into it. That's what's going on. We got spooky stuff going, strangulations, necks being broken, and weird bits of flesh. And Kolchak is this unfair of me to say? Kolchak is like Mulder and Scully rolled into one person. I
think he's mostly just Mulder, because it's not that Mulder was not.
I guess that's right.
Mulder was not non-scientific. He just happened to be confronted with all of the things that were happening in the world, which is what happens with Kolchak as well.
Yeah.
Well, he's also doesn't have the problem that Scully has, because Scully, God bless her, she's like not just a skeptic; she's like a flat Earth skeptic.
Yeah.
Like it takes a lot to finally get her over into the believer. Like she goes through a lot of weird stuff before she's like, you know what? Maybe there is some paranormal phenomenon. Like Kolchak has already had the character development of, because like if you look at the first movie, his girlfriend is like, maybe the killer is a real vampire, and he laughs it off until like it's the only thing that makes sense to him. Having seen and killed a real vampire, he's a lot more open to the idea of something being supernatural. Right. And
he's ready to go there. Like you bet. Sure. Fine.
Well, especially after the vampire, because the vampire, he wasn't immediately ready to go there. He just kind of went, this sounds like this guy thinks he's a vampire, and he's like, no, this guy actually this guy's a vampire. And so now that he knows that vampires exist, he's like, okay, well, what else is out there? And so I think he's more open.
Yeah.
Also, by the way, when you watch this, you realize that Toombs definitely is.
Okay, remind me of Toombs. Somebody mentioned this.
Well,
right?
he's in X-Files. He's the thing that comes back every X amount of years, and he holds up and encases himself in a cocoon, basically.
Yes.
He's not nearly.
I do have Whoa! I'm shaking when I think about that. Holy mackerel! Yes, yeah.
Because it's different, but it's similar enough to when this first started kind of coalescing.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, I got you. I'd forgotten about this. I see where you're coming from with that episode. It's played much more horrifically in the X-Files, and it's different enough. It's not, I'm not saying, oh, that was a big ripoff or anything, but
not at all. No, and it's funny. We've been coy about that, but obviously Chris Carter definitely had Kolchak in mind. So much so that he desperately, to my understanding, he really wanted to create at least one crossover, and to have Carl Kolchak appear at least in some episode, and apparently McGavin was not interested in that.
It would have been cool though.
For sure, it would. Yeah, I'm confused about something.
McGavin did play on, he did play a character on the X-Files eventually.
Yes, but what I read was that Carter asked McGavin if he would be willing to reprise the character of Kolchak for that part. McGavin said, I wouldn't be interested in doing that. Apparently thought that was silly. And so they made the character a new character inside the X-Files universe. And I don't know why McGavin would feel that way, but I've also heard, has anybody heard? I've heard that McGavin was also the one who wanted out of the TV series because he felt like he didn't like I guess he got tired of playing the character. It could be that Darren McGavin got sick of doing a TV show, and
I do know that he liked this one. He didn't say anything too disparaging about this one, but he did like it less than the original because he felt it didn't have it does very much follow the plot line of the original movie, just with slight differences. And the episodes of the show, and I don't think Darren McGavin ever phones it in on any of those. But the episodes of the show definitely they're like shorter versions of the movies. They follow all of the same beats and everything. And in fact, I would say the show the tone of the show, more so than the first one, really evolves out of this one because of all the verbal sparring with Vincenzo being like dialed up to 10.
Right.
So I have
Interesting.
no idea why the show didn't get it. I think it only got one season. But no, it was well, this is the power of Google. It was simply canceled because it didn't do well.
Okay. I mean, well, Chris Carter said that one of the major problems with Kolchak that he had to figure out how to write around when he was creating the X-Files was that how do you maintain enthusiasm with the Monster of the Week? Because Monster of the Week is great, but the problem is, of course, that, and when you think about it, procedural is a procedural, and a Monster of the Week is really just procedural, just like a lawyer show. But you have to figure out how to sprinkle in enough ongoing story so that people have a reason to watch this week's procedural as opposed to next week's, or else it becomes something where you literally can skip any week and it doesn't matter. And that was something that Carter was trying to address when he came up with his weird method of writing a television series, which is that literally half of the episodes would be Monster of the Week and the other half would be ongoing story.
Which is funny because when you talk to people who grew up with the X-Files,
yeah,
and I'm not trying to derail this into an X-Files conversation.
This is fun. I like talking about this.
It does relate to Kolchak. I think you find two people who like the two different ways people. You have people who really love the mythology episodes.
That's me.
Yeah. And then you have people like myself who prefer the Monster of the Week. And I'm not saying one is wrong or the other. It's just a difference in taste.
Yeah.
I do think that is it probably was smart of him coming up with a way to keep people's attention or invested, I guess. And certainly that's where TV, you look at something like genre TV a couple of years down the line, something like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which was also a Monster of the Week show. Like it still had a lot of continuity. Like you really had to watch.
I'm the person who loves the relationship. So I'm just like, I just want to know about what's going on with the people and the relationships. So for me, that's super important to keep me interested both in Buffy and in the X-Files. But if you're not, if you're like, oh, who cares? I just want to see more monsters, then you're going to be more into the other ones.
I understand. Okay, so immediately he starts investigating, and instead of the last movie, as we it's so funny how the second film of almost any series tends to kind of take a paring knife to what they had to begin with to try to sculpt out what is this going to be like if there's going to be more of them. And so instead of all of the City Fathers, a whole bunch of actors, instead, you've got basically they're all boiled down to one, which is a barking police cap, and then the rich dude who runs the paper. That's it. And then you've got all the people that Kolchak is going to meet on the beat. Very early, one of the people that he connects with. And also in this movie, as we pointed out, we're entering a slightly more television-friendly kind of fantasy universe where people just team up for seemingly no reason. So he pretty quickly acquires a Girl Friday of sorts in the form of Joanne Flug, who plays one of the belly dancers. And this belly dancing place is being stalked. And she's kind of a witness, and then after a while
she's also a really fun character. I like her.
I like her a lot.
She's a motor mouth.
Sparring is great.
She reminded me so much of Paula Prentice in Stepford Wives.
Very much. Oh yeah, that's a wonderful point. Right down to her voice too. I mean, she sounds kind of like Paula Prentice, and she's a sort of a chatterbox like Paula Prentice in that movie. She has a boat. And neat character. But she just, so that Kolchak now has somebody to hang out with, she joins the investigation, which is groovy. And that takes this movie to the thing that if I closed my eyes and I try to remember the Night Strangler, there's only two things I remember. There's the newspaper morgue and there's the Seattle
Wanda.
Underground.
Oh, wait, no.
Yeah, the two things. What did I say?
No, I said, and Wanda. No, I'm kidding. Anyway.
Which one was Wanda?
She's the husband.
Oh, no, Wilma.
Wilma. Sorry, I'm calling her.
Okay, so before we get to the underground, we should mention that there is this curious character of Wilma who Kolchak rather derisively calls the husband of one of the of Charisma Beauty, who's one of the belly dancers. She has a partner who hangs out and is very protective of her, named Wilma, which was
it's hard to know what the relationship is, if they're actually lovers or if
I don't think that
like
it's
her
hard to
assistant.
know that at all. I think that
No.
they're supposed to be.
I think
a gay
they're
couple.
obviously a couple. Yeah.
I just think that's about as gay as you could get in 1973 television.
But it's not about. You're right. It's not about the gay part. It's about the fact that that Charisma is way out of Wilma's league. So it just seems like
I don't know
that's
what
why I had
Charisma's into, though. You know,
Yeah,
she's-
like
anyway,
it's
that's
like,
where I was kind of like, "Are you really? Is that your partner?"
there's
Yeah.
no, I know a lot of lesbians, and you know, there's different non-heteronormative tastes that goes on there. So like Wilma could be considered hot from a certain perspective if you're part of that culture. So I'm not going to make a judgment on that. But I am fascinated that this is like in the first one and Night Stalker, there was the victim in the vampire, the very first victim, who was also supposed to be a lesbian, and then we have this. And again, like, I don't know that much about Richard Matheson as a person, but again, this does kind of show a degree of even though Kolchak is kind of, as you said, derisive, like he's kind of,
he makes a joke out of it.
He does make a joke out of it, but it does, like, later on when Charisma is killed by the Strangler, you get to see Wilma mourning, like it gives her a degree of so like, I do wonder if Richard Matheson was progressive for his times, and that's why he was trying to get this sort of stuff into a TV movie as much as he could.
I mean, probably somewhat. Oh, go ahead, Tony.
I mean, I also like that her scowling at him always is also because she's seen a million Kolchaks. Like, she doesn't know him because she hasn't had time to know him. So he is genuinely, hey, I'm going to figure this out. Like, he's a reporter, but he's also coming to the club, coming into the...
Yeah, he's a sleazy guy who just...
and so she's totally kind of justified in going, I know you. Sure. Like, not having known that he wants to solve this murder and stuff.
Yeah.
She has him kind of pegged, and all of her scowls are fairly justified if you've met enough people.
Oh, God, yes.
And so it's really, I mean, he's being a typical guy in kind of playing that off, which is also kind of how he is. But her archetype is also great, and she does give the best. If I could just shoot lasers out of my eyes right now, I would disintegrate you. She's really great. Like,
no, I agree.
It's interesting
how their relationship is really cool, because also she's got to be very protective because Charisma Beauty is really naive.
Yeah,
like super naive. True. And so you get the impression that maybe, I mean, she might have even fallen for somebody, or like these guys are always coming. She's like, hey, they like me. And, her girlfriend has to go, oh, look, these guys are terrible.
Yeah.
And so when Kolchak shows up, like, you would hope that somebody would go, oh, look, he's trying to help. But he's still that dude.
Yeah, and he is that dude. He's every bit that dude. He's not some guy that we might be that dude. We've seen that he is that dude.
I mean, he is the guy who says things like, talks about how many times she can shake her hips.
Or again, I got stuck at that comment in the last movie about the 135 luscious pounds of dead woman. I was like, what the fuck?
Oh, he's Kolchak is extremely, like, and again, I love this. I do love the fact that this character has so many. He's such a flawed guy in his way. He's extremely insensitive, and that carries over to this movie. Like, once he's trying to pursue a story, he's like a dog with a bone, and he doesn't care. Like, if you're in the way of his story, he's just gonna bulldoze over you.
It's what makes him good at his job and bad as a person, which there's a lot of, or not. I mean, he's not the most terrible. There's people, but
also remember, there's always room to grow, right?
Right.
If you were in the universe of a series, a character can have an arc where at the beginning he doesn't treat exotic dancers as though they are actually people. You know,
Well, in his way,
flawed is the word. I mean, it's not perfect. Yeah.
In his way, he is doing more than like the actual authorities. Like,
well said.
He kind of objectifies these women, but at the same time, he's the only one that's actually going out and putting his own reputation and neck on the line to really do anything about this.
No, that's a really good point. Yeah.
He's relentless, but he's also his, I mean, that's his best strength and weakness, right? He is relentless at his job, but that is, he's insensitive. And again, going back to the X-Files, you get some of that with Mulder as well, where he's, he has empathy, but he's willing to throw a lot of crap away if he knows that if he can meet a Bigfoot or whatever,
right?
He's gonna do it, and it doesn't matter that this may hurt somebody in that small town, for the most part, or whatever. That's probably a bad version of that, but you get what I mean. But I like. I like that he's comfortable. Yeah. He seems to be more comfortable because he spends so much time seeking it out on the seedy side of things.
Okay, then let me apologize.
Probably also why that the establishment doesn't like him very much, because you spend more time with over there, and we see that a lot. It's a good trope, but it's also kind of true in a way.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, you're right. That was inappropriate for me to say, because I said that he didn't treat them like real people, but actually, as both of you just made the point, he definitely does. He's insensitive, but they are real people. The hustlers, the dancers, everybody down here, everybody knows Kolchak. Kolchak treats them like people. Kolchak would have dinner with them.
Kolchak is also, he is the other. He is
He's kind of a freak. He wears weird clothes. He talks weird. He believes weird things.
Zombies.
Yeah. Well, think about the way he is introduced in this movie, where he is trying to convince the other reporter of what happened in the previous movie, and everybody in that bar is staring at him like he's a lunatic
because he's yelling about vampires and stuff.
Yeah, and
he's the crazy guy.
But he's like, that's the thing about Kolchak, is like, even though it would be more convenient for him to go, oh no, it was just a serial killer. It was a guy who thought he was a vampire. Yeah. Once Kolchak knows something is true, he will never, ever, ever lie about it.
Yeah, he's he's a true journalist in that regard. He really believes that the public deserves to know the truth. And it's so frustrating to him throughout this whole film that they won't report what's going on so that they can save
he never
the
tires
life
of being amazed at
these women. Like, he's just like, it's not, they're like, oh, we're not going to, panic the whole city just for you. No, not just for me, just for the next person who's going to die, let's try to save their life. And they're just like, no, we're not going to do that.
For the truth, so-called. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I did really like the one part, it's definitely of a time, because now we're dealing with just constant news reports kind of to the contrary. But I really did like where he comes in and the chief of police is like, yeah, we did all of that.
Yes.
Like, he actually, all of his points are actually pretty good. Now, he doesn't believe the corpse part and all of that, because he's steadfastly in the realm of reality.
Yeah.
But he really whips Kolchak in place to where he doesn't really have anything he can without.
We are a little bit competent. We're a little bit competent.
Yes.
Without supernatural element. He's like, hey, did you do this? We did. Did you do this? And it's really cool, because in the previous one, the cops were like, hey, don't bother us. We're sick of you. Right. Can you just get out? And this guy has that, because also Kolchak's only been there 2 weeks. But when he lays it all out and what they actually did on the investigation, you kind of got to give it up and go, oh, yeah, hey. Even Kolchak doesn't have any, he leaves kind of with his tail tucked between his legs.
Right.
And it's amazing to see that, because he's so good at throwing it back at him. And every time he throws it back, chief of police is like, yeah, well, here's the thing you didn't know, because you've only been here 2 weeks. And I know he's trying to shut him down.
Yeah.
And we learned that he maybe should have believed Kolchak more. But it is really cool to see he's not incompetent in the way that the cops were in the previous movie.
Yeah.
And it's their interaction there is written really well because he's got him dead to rights.
Yeah.
It's just Kolchak's tenacity won't let any of that, the surface level explanation, go. Like, it's got to be deeper. And he feels in his gut, and he's being a journalist. But to the rest of the world, all of that actually makes a lot of sense.
Well, and in fact, what is it? I mean, everything that the cop says is basically right, but it boils down to, we searched in the underground, we didn't find anything. And if I understand correctly from the way it works out, because Kolchak finally just figures out that they just need to be more careful about where they go looking. And he discovers an entrance to the underground that is situated near the hospital of this particular doctor who he suspects of being an immortal. But, and then once he knows once he knows where the entrance to the underground is, he's good to go. At that point, the jig is up. As soon as he figures out, this is where the guy's going, then, you're almost to the end of the film at that time. But I just wanted to go back for a moment. Seattle Underground stuff. I have the faintest memory of going to the Seattle Underground tour when Julia and I were in Seattle. I believe everything that we see in this movie is complete fantasy, but boy, is it great. I love the world of Seattle Underground as presented in this film, where, there's whole city blocks, you can get lost for days down there, and it's wonderful. I mean, didn't this fire your imagination to see this?
I mean, at some point it becomes almost like the Beauty and the Beast TV series as far as what all's under there.
or Midian or something like that.
Yeah. But
yeah,
Linda Hamilton and Ron Perlman would be down there.
So, Jason, when I first brought up Wilma, you were actually talking about something else entirely. You said something like the two most memorable things about the show or the movie.
Second one. Well, luckily, I found it my way back. It was the Underground. First was Wally Cox with the newspaper morgue, but the second was the Underground. And,
yes.
Yeah.
So I agree that it was memorable to go. I remember them talking about how the reason it exists is because they hadn't figured out how to keep the plumbing from backing up through the toilets and like shooting up people. So they just had to build the whole city up higher, which was just so gross. But this was interesting that whole, I think it's bigger. The set that they make is bigger than what is actually there, but it's it is a thing that exists. This underground, and it's an interesting set. I love that the actual Strangler. And by the way, I looked it up, and the Salem Strangler from Days of Our Lives was in 1981 and 82, so it really was when I was a kid that was going on. The Strangler has a beautiful, very elegant setup in the underground. It's like really nice, home with like chandeliers and stuff, and then he's got this amazing lab. I just love the part. I know I was skipping around a little bit, but
the bad guy. Yes.
I love the part when he at the end just goes full James Bond and just tells him everything. He grants him the interview, warning him first that he's going to be killing him soon. Grants him the interview, and then proceeds to go. And the reason I'm doing this is that every time I make this elixir with the blood of one of these girls, and I take it at this exact moment, I get younger and it gets more permanent, and I can last for the 21 years. And this is the last one that I have to take right now, or I will, or the effects will be completely reversed and I will die. And I'm like going, and so please do not destroy it at this moment right now with your free hands that have nothing encumbering them. It's super fun.
By the way, he also has a pretty bitchin' fog machine.
Yeah, right?
Oh, God. He's the Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah.
The Phantom of the Opera also had skeletons and shit.
Right.
I mean, he's got a whole family set up, sitting at dinner tables that are crawling with rodents.
So
and
gross.
Like, I presume chess sets and stuff. I mean, he's like the Omega Man. He's
there's a lot of things borrowed from this, or vice versa.
Oh my God! What a great character!
I also love the underground fake out where Al Lewis jumps out with Grandpa Munster jumps out at him, and you think it's the Strangler. Anyway, go ahead, Drew. Sorry.
No. Talk about Al Lewis first, because I
just thought that was. But before we find the actual lair, we find the lair of the the poor
Grandpa
homeless guy,
Munster.
of Grandpa Munster, with his alcohol, and he just jumps out. And he's like, starts complaining about his pain, all his aches and pains.
I love that exchange because it's just like, what's her face? The girlfriend character is like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "I'm fine." After going on about like all of like, and he's my back don't work and my knees and my my stomach, and I'm starting to get a migraine, but he's fine. He's fine. I like, and it's that delivery that only Al Lewis can really get away with.
That was really fun.
He'd be double fine if they had some extra liquor to give him.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, right. He's a great character. I liked Al.
Poor guy. I don't know why he got killed. That was awful.
Yeah. No,
why
you're right.
Because the Strangler's evil.
That's he's rude is what it is. He's rude. Like, why did he kill him? There was no reason for that. He wasn't doing anything.
Well, also
he didn't need his blood, and he was down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because like he specifically says it has to be blood from young women. So
yeah, no, he definitely didn't need the blood.
No reason to kill him.
He just killed him for no reason because he's rude.
Because deep down, he just like most of these mad scientists in movies, and I think he definitely qualifies. They all say that they're doing something for the betterment of mankind, but he really just likes killing people.
I love his logic. His logic is, what's a few lives when it comes to immortality? And I'm like, are you hearing yourself?
Right.
Yeah, but those people don't matter.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Was anybody a little disappointed that we never like see him like the full on zombified?
Absolutely. I want to see his ratty face.
We see him zombified when in super speed when he's deteriorating, but
but not like the drawing where he basically looks like Dr. Fives.
Dr. Fives.
Yeah.
He's supposed to look like Dr. Fives. I was waiting for that. I thought it was going to happen, and it never did. And that
I want to see him in a Yorga in a strangle off.
Yeah.
We can get them just like it'll be like over the top, like a arm wrestling, but it'll just be like a strangle off.
I just love the way that Yorga will just run at the camera, and that's
this guy crashed through a window to strangle somebody.
That's true. Oh, that was
when I saw that, I was like, oh man,
scary.
I wanna strangle off between these two characters. Like just run through windows, and then they have to strangle. Yeah, it's just like an arm wrestling, but with hands around necks.
Great. That's the end. That's when he's there underground with Richard Anderson, who's well known as Oscar Goldman from $6 Million Man, all Kolchak has to do, and I think this is just Richard Matheson just wrapping it up pretty quickly.
But he crashes through a window to attack the one woman.
No, I know. But that's true. I'm sorry, I was skipping back, so I apologize. But yes,
well, no, that's what I was talking about. When he's willing to just jump through windows to strangle people.
Yeah, it's that woman, and she has a curious accent.
That's what I thought of. Man,
when he crashes through the window, it's funny. I never thought about it the other times I've seen this film, but he growls when he smashes through the window, and the only thing I could think of is, dude must have gotten a mouthful of broken glass.
Well, he's monstrous until he has enough elixir to.
Well, at that point, he's regenerated enough. It's like
you're right.
They even make a point that actually is a plot point because
he no longer is leaving skin, right?
Well, and there's somebody that says they saw the killer, but he was quite handsome. And I think that's interesting because it does throw, especially because Kolchak has that sort of contentious relationship with the police chief. And it puts him at a disadvantage because he's like, well, "Can you explain that?"
By that, Jason immediately goes, "Oh, that's because it's working." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." I didn't get that he was like just becoming younger. I thought he was just. I was like, "Wait, what?" Yeah.
But what happens to him? Oh, right. Well, no. Okay, forgive me for being stupid, but in 5 minutes, he's going to take the last elixir and he's going to be young again. And then what? He's not running around the city still, is he? Is he still running the clinic? I can't remember.
Sure, he's just going to do whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, he'll kill some more people Because
So he
was a little
doesn't fall
confusing.
into a tomb like Tombs.
No, but that was a little confusing because he goes, "What clinic?" Like he really seemed genuinely to not know what he was talking about, which was puzzling to me. I was like, "Why is he pretending he doesn't have a clinic?"
Oh, I
don't
thought
know.
he was just trying to throw like.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
He's just kind of trying to throw him off the scent. Even though, I mean, he's going to explain it, but he's basically like, huh, "What do you mean? Tell me. You tell me what you know." Basically, he's kind of drawing it out. I
thought they did. Given how much Basil exposition there was in that interview that he gives him, I still found myself confused about what the plan was. Like, wait, what? So do you go and just pretend to be just a regular dude, or like, what do you have? Do you embed papers for yourself? What happens?
I think I don't know if he's thought this out because it's been years and years and years.
Yeah.
He's had a long time of not being immortal, right? Where he's got a plan. And so I think, A, I don't think he's had it out. B, I'm pretty sure if his plan had worked and he's immortal, that's the point where he's going to question a lot of things. But I think he's still going to hang out with his fog-filled room full of corpses.
Yeah.
Because he's too
but that'll be his Batcave. That's what I'm saying. He could have a regular life and then also the Batcave.
Yeah, he'd probably mess up because I bet he's got to kill people just because I'm so bored. Immortality, I used to have a reason to kill people. I guess now I have to come up with one.
Yeah.
That's too much of what he's gotten too enamored with that,
Yeah.
Maybe he'll make it every 21 years out of diplomacy, out of habit, out of ritual. But it's more likely that once he's really just hanging out, or he might just go, I used to have to hide out for 21 years. Now that I'm out and about everywhere, the modern world sucks. Or he might just become a debutante, but a weirdo who always smells like rats and corpses.
It doesn't matter at all, but I have to admit, super duper confused about this. Because if he has been kicking along immortal and every 21 years he's got to kill some people just to sort of re-up, then why hasn't he been wandering around as a city father now? In other words, why has he been underground doing this Omega Man shit?
I think he lives down there. I think he keeps his lab down there.
Okay.
Well,
but he's still got it set up really strangely.
Nah, he's been, the way he talks to all the corpses, we're gonna have
and that seems to be his family.
We're gonna have soup tonight, or whatever.
You know what? You might be right.
Yeah.
Well, then the answer to your question, Jason, Tony just answered it in a roundabout way. It's because he's insane,
right?
No, he doesn't. If he made this immortality thing for reals, you're gonna get a way different, way more erratic, probably way more broad version of this guy acting because he's gonna get bored. He has a purpose every 21 years.
Yes.
He works towards that, and he's got his friends are corpses,
right?
But because there's also no one who's gone, oh yeah, that doctor,
right. But the thing is, but he does say he's got the two names. He's got the reverse names. What's his name?
Yeah, the very you have to be Sherlock Holmes to figure out that one.
Richard Malcolm and Malcolm
Richards. Yeah, so he does have another identity after the original identity.
He is.
I think they just needed more time with this story so that they could make all this more clear. But anyways, it's super.
I don't know that I think it works well enough because neither one of these movies. The thing about these movies is neither one of these movies are really about the monster. They're about A, Kolchak, and B, through Kolchak, the city structure and the news people and the police, and then you have the other side. It's about the victim. Whereas if this was a Hammer movie, Dracula is there's this cult of personality around Dracula, and you care more about Dracula as a character, or Frankenstein as a character. They put a lot into Baron Frankenstein. This movie is interested in all that. It doesn't really take the approach that a lot of horror films take, whereas the monster is the rock star. And I'm fine with that, because Kolchak is a cool character to go along with. Like, you learn enough about Malcolm to where you kind of get his deal, and then he's dead, and that's fine, because and you spend more time with him than you do with a vampire in the first movie, but it's still not
that's for sure
amount of time.
You know what, though? Now that we're talking about it, it does make more sense that he would do all the exposition like a Bond villain, because the corpses don't ever, he's tired of telling them.
Yeah.
So another 21 years, this is going to be for real. We're going to get out on the town. I'm going to be fully immortal. And they just kind of sit there. So having a real live person to go, by the way, here's how genius I am, right? Like, those guys don't get how genius I am. They're sitting over there with the rats and all desiccated and everything. But now I've got a chance to tell a real live person, here's my thing, right?
Well, also, though, do we even know that he stays in Seattle during during
we
the
do
breakdown?
not.
You don't know what he does there.
Well, we know he kills people in New York, so we know he moves around. But whether he moves around between the 21 years, we don't.
It's actually stupid for him to ever go back to Seattle, because that's what made Kolchak notice. Like, if he just did
not
this
just
in a
Seattle, but
city.
Pioneer Square specifically. Like, he always just kills in the same area.
He digs that.
I mean, I know that's serial killer behavior.
I mean, he could do anything.
Yeah.
You're right. He could go join up with people and like tour the world.
I mean, that's some Devil in the White City kind of stuff.
With people.
Right.
He summers in Barbados and occasionally goes to Monaco. That's what you didn't know. Weirdly enough,
I'm gonna have to think that elixir does something to maybe the elixir does something a little bit to your mind, like I know this is conjecture on my part, but or it's the loneliness of being immortal, one or the other, but it's he doesn't actually as far as being a criminal, he doesn't show too much sense, because it just takes.
Well, he's the way his affectations when he's talking to his buddies who are corpses, and the way that there's a kind of family structure, and he says the way he talks. What would be funny is if he only leaves Seattle to go to places that have like an underground,
right?
Like Edinburgh, or like places that have like ossuaries.
The Paris catacombs.
Exactly, and he's just got a weird desiccated family in each of those cities.
Well, I should point out there is a system of tunnels underneath Dallas as well. FYI.
Oh, yeah, so he's got it,
and underneath the Denver airport.
Oh yeah, definitely.
True.
But it would be awesome if he had a quote unquote family or friends, or like one of them's like a nightclub and another one's like a pub.
Now you're seeing him like Lucifer, like the show Lucifer, where he's like got his club. Yeah. That's super funny.
Just like
I love it.
I tour the world. Yeah, but you spend it underground, man.
Yeah.
That's not right.
Okay, so I want to mention before we move on to the end that one thing that I found really just difficult for me to keep my eyes off of was Darren McGavin's hairpiece, which is this really dramatic red thing that like swoops forward in a kind of a cowlick pompadour thing. I mean, it's an absurd hairpiece that they've added. I'm not knocking it. I could probably use a hairpiece myself, but boy, is it dramatic. And I couldn't keep my eyes off of it. But the thing is, he's such a tacky person that it doesn't strike me as weird that he would also have a hairpiece that seems
if you look
ready
at the
to
way
run away at any moment.
If you look at the way he's styled in this movie versus the first one, he's a lot. I think the hairpiece is actually kind of a character choice, is that he's a lot more wrinkly with this like clothes, like his tie is more disheveled. He just doesn't look as he's still got his look, but he's not as like put together as he is in Night Stalker. And I think it's because, the idea is that for a year or so now, he's been living kind of on hard times.
Yes.
Yeah, he's only been there 2 weeks, and his stuff, he hasn't put it back together. He got beat down.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's true.
Although now, Jason, that you mention it, hey, maybe I could use a hairpin. I hope that you just keep watching auctions, so the next time I see you, you have bought and are wearing this hairpiece.
Don't listen to him.
Man, if you could find Darren McGavin's hairpiece, holy crap.
Sorry,
You'll
Julia.
absorb all the Kolchak power. Suddenly, all your clothes will become seersucker, and you
I get this email from Julia. Damn you, Tony. What's this? This is damn you, Tony. And it's just a picture. It's just Julia sent me a picture of you, and you just will not wear the hairpiece. Like
The hairpiece and the seersucker suit. It would be to both of you.
And he's just
Oh,
like,
man.
he was like, I
Jason,
can't.
This should totally be your
freaking
Halloween costume.
Yeah.
You should be Kolchak the Night Stalker.
That would be amazing. I just like, what's this? Julia seems angry. It's just, you said this on the podcast, and oh damn it! Just he will not take it off.
It's a
He
good
showers in this. Tony, I hate you now. You're off the podcast. I did not marry Kolchak.
A
now
little,
I
a little
have
bit
what I
married
have.
Kolchak, but not.
Well,
not
yeah,
Yeah.
you know what I mean.
much.
You didn't intend to marry
Hairpiece wearing Kolchak.
hairpiece Jason.
Yes.
That would be
Oh my
amazing.
God.
I would feel bad.
okay.
I would also feel a little bit of sense of accomplishment, but I would mainly feel bad for Julia because we're good friends. If we weren't good friends, I would laugh diabolically.
Nah, man, live your best Kolchak life.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree. Yeah. You know, by the way, Darren McGavin dresses very much like this in yet another light suit in Hair at the Wind, which is not, it's like 15 years after this. He's so good. I mean, Darren McGavin is so good, right? And in that one, he plays, he's a reporter. I'm sorry. I'm just now thinking back, and his character is the reporter. It's the same sort of demonic, smarmy reporter that Gene Kelly played in the theatrical movie in Hair at the Wind. But Carl Kolchak played that in the TV film, which was a great film, 1988. That was, yet another Darren McGavin reporter character. So the film ends with basically everybody gets. It's exactly the same way the last one ends. It's becoming a running gag because now it's happening twice.
Well,
Yeah.
it's played way more. It's played way less straight, and that's kind of the difference. That was an interesting
agreed.
difference too, because in the first movie, it becomes more of a Hulk TV series where he's I'm on the run now. I've been destroyed. I can't find my woman.
It's
how
really
will I find
depressing
her?
in the
And
first
it's
one.
actually really, in this one, it's them going, oh man, we got to go to New York, and
It's very much of a why I oughta kind of moment.
Yes.
Although it did give me hope. I also pictured in my head, I hope they go to New York and there's a Vincenzo J. Jonah Jameson rivalry where they just get to try to out-curmudgeon each other.
But
Yes.
J. Jonah Jameson's not in New York. He's in Metropolis.
No? He's in
New York. Yeah,
You're
the
thinking,
Spider-Man's in New
you're
York.
thinking of Perry
Marvel.
White,
Yeah.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
right.
Superman's boss.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Who
So
also would,
Jameson is... Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Drew.
this also would be an awesome trifecta of
Yeah, you're right.
fictional newspaper editors.
Perry White was never as grumpy.
No,
as-
he's actually
as,
decently good-natured. He just wants the story. But, between...
Well, he
Vincenzo
doesn't want
going,
you to call
can't
him
keep-
chief. You don't
Right.
doesn't want you to call him chief.
Right. You can't keep chasing monsters and get me some Spider-Man. And they would just have rival newspapers. That would be amazing.
It's so funny how that whole conception of the newspaper editor is not even inspired really by like the Watergate era guys. It's inspired by these characters left over from like 1930s movies.
Right.
It's so weird because this is 1973. In other words, these are 40-year-old concepts that they're
Right.
playing with.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
And throw in a cop, throw in
Right.
a Lethal Weapon style cop.
Oh yeah.
You can't keep doing this. Like,
Do you know how much it's going to cost the paper to deal with the damage that you did? Oh no. Yeah, exactly. It's my favorite
I
part
kind
of
of want to
Dirty.
see the curmudgeon bar where all these characters
what's
go
odd-
and yell at how incompetent everyone under them. I understand as well, but they're all yelling. So it's like everyone under me is also an idiot. That's right, we hate idiots, and they're just yelling like how much they all hate idiots.
Odd
Loose
about
cannons everywhere.
the movie trajectory, there is like a script for a third movie
Sure.
that Matheson wrote, and it doesn't even even though they're on their way to New York, the third movie wasn't even going to take place in New York. It was going to take place in Hawaii, and it was going to be about aliens, which I kind of wish it had been made instead of the TV show. Not that I dislike the TV show, but I do think the TV show is inferior to the two films.
Clearly, I need to watch this. I caught a few scenes of the TV show. One where
if you
Kathy
like the
Lee
movies,
Crosby.
if you like the movies, you will enjoy them.
I mean, I saw one where Kathy Lee Crosby is part of some sort of super race health club that wants to. I don't know what comes after wants to, but anyway, that's what they are. They're a health club for a super race, and I guess I don't know, maybe it's something like Moonraker, and they're going to wipe out everybody else and repopulate.
Everybody should be as healthy as Aerobicized.
That's Kathy Lee Crosby. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
If you're not ready to be on Battle of the Network Stars, you cannot be part of the master race. So yeah. And that brings us to the end of the Night Strangler. So let's get our final thoughts, and then I'll give us an opportunity to hit on anything that we might have missed. But boy, this was fun to talk about. It was Tony, Julia, Drew, and then I'll go. So Tony, Night Strangler, Seattle Underground, Exotic Dancers. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I like the Kolchak character. Again, depending on your age, it's definitely of a time, but it works still to me. And I really dig it. I think, again, it is kind of funny because so much of it leads to both so much more of it is them yelling at each other and you can't do this, but more so than the first one. It's a tonally different movie. It's weird because even though there's probably more murder on screen, it's not quite as bleak in a way.
Yeah.
And I think that's interesting. I really dig it. I got to go back and watch more of the series, which I've only caught pieces of. That's a real blind spot for me because everything about it is stuff I dig.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's cool. It is funny to see, we never really left these archetypes behind.
Yeah.
And again, I really dig. I think if you were to pitch this and cast it in modern day, I think that the trend would be, even if he's an older person, I don't think you would get the same Kolchak. I don't think you would get the same kind of hangdog, disheveled.
I could see it with Jack Black or somebody like that.
Maybe, but that would be like I just don't think
he'd play it much more broad.
Yeah. I think you would get a cat, you would get somebody who's slicker or more put together. And I think part of the magic is this particular reporter of this particular era with this particular look and how he approaches things.
Well, of course, they actually did this, by the way. I remember they did a very brief Stuart Townsend reboot.
Well, you said it right there, Stuart Townsend, who is a million miles away from Darren McGavin. And I've liked Stuart Townsend and stuff. I don't hate him as an actor, but he's definitely not. When you were to say Carl Kolchak reboot, he's definitely not the first person I would envision. Honestly, I think if they had done it in the even in the 80s, you might have been able to find somebody to do it.
Oh man, I would love a reboot with Buscemi.
Buscemi would do it good. Actually, if they'd done it in the 80s, Tom Atkins he would have been a more macho Carl Kolchak, but I think he could have pulled it off.
Or Bryan Cranston would be.
Bryan Cranston is perfect. Yes.
Right.
Actually, Bryan Cranston, out of anybody working right now, I think would do this justice. And this is
Bryan Cranston is probably already 15 years older than than Darren McGavin at the time of this character. I think they
but 60 is the new 30 or whatever.
In my casting, I'm holding out for Buscemi.
Buscemi would be great. I do think that this is a character. I'm actually probably jumping onto my final thoughts here, but I do think that this is a character that I would love to see more adventures than we got
Yeah.
it is a cool
Mhm.
character. And I think
Mhm.
in this age of quote unquote fake news, and where there's always the war on truth, I think Kolchak could be the hero that we need.
Well, what's funny is we did get the X-Files, but I'll be honest with you, that where they brought the X-Files back, that run to me was frustrating in the way that news and how they portrayed it. It was way bleaker, and I only liked really 2 episodes of that. And so too much of that, I felt that was detrimental. But watching these 2 movies back to back definitely made me go, oh, that's okay. You split the character and you do what Jason said, where, hey, how do I keep this going? Because the TV series didn't last longer than one season. So, hey, how do I prevent my X-Files show from doing that? I think everyone made the right choices.
You have to be super, basically it's a balancing act, and you just have to be super careful not to fall clean over one way or the other, but yeah. Julia, and Drew, if you have more, we'll get back to it in just a second. Julia, what are your final thoughts on The Night Strangler?
My final thought is that this is not Funtown, USA. This is Seattle, damn it.
Nice.
That was such a funny line. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was just fun and light. It wasn't, I think right now everything is so freaking heavy. I mean, on top of all of the COVID stuff and the politics stuff, we've got like this horrible wildfire. So the sky is filled with smoke again. And, it's been super hot. And then Tuesday we're going to have snow. Everything is crazy. And I'm just like, it's fun to watch something just lighthearted. And you know what I mean? I mean, that's not lighthearted that the poor women get murdered, of course. That's awful. But
They're imaginary women. It's okay.
Yeah, well, they're imaginary belly dancers, which are my people. I mean, I used to belly dance before I moved to Colorado. But anyway, but no, it's just a neat story, and I really enjoyed it. So thanks for suggesting it, Drew.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, for real. Drew, did you have any other final thoughts?
I think that this was a fun discussion, and I hope that sort of bringing these movies and this character back to the attention of the people that follow the show, I hope it will influence people to go hunt these down. They aren't readily streaming anywhere, unfortunately, but the Blu-rays you can get pretty easily on Amazon, and they're worth buying. I guess I'll repeat what I said earlier. I think that this is a great character, and I think it's a shame we didn't get more of him, because I think that it's a character that has a lot of meat to him. And I love Carl Kolchak. I think he's a brilliant creation. Thank you, Jeff Rice. Thank you, Richard Matheson. Thank you, Dan Curtis, for making these films.
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful. Yeah. And it's also really neat just to see the breadth of Dan Curtis as a director, because, everybody knows about him for Dark Shadows, but it's neat. He directed this, he did The Winds of War. And so he's, that guy's just all over the place. He was pretty amazing. I have no other final thoughts other than I love Joanne Flogan here, and Wally Cox and Margaret Hamill. I mean, this is the coolest darn cast. It's really cool. And, and Darren McGavin's hairpiece as itself is wonderful. And so let's do
soon to be yours.
Yes. If somebody out there has a bead on this hairpiece.
Stop. Stop it.
I'm telling you, Jason, you should just go full Kolchak, buy some seersucker, get down.
You guys just want me to come over there and hit you, or what's the
what? I'm just trying to
the question is, do you want to go the
true north?
Out of the famous Hollywood hairpieces, you got to think of, there's Kolchak, which is this swoopy 50s, he's got some length to it. And then there's like the Shatner, which was this sort of curly.
I don't think that Julia's ready for the Shatner. I don't think, that might involve.
Nobody's ready for the Shatner.
that might involve green body paint on her part. I don't think that's a level of commitment she's in for. Let's just keep it at level Kolchak.
Too much. Okay.
Are you ready for the hair piece?
I hate getting old. It's hard.
You
man.
opened the door to this, Jason.
What a drag it is getting old. Absolutely. No.
Yes,
I
Mom.
did. I do. I think it's hilarious. Okay. Next week we'll come back with more hair pieces that are worth paying attention to. So, let's do endorsements. Tony, Julia, Drew, and then I'll go. Whatever you're listening to, reading, what you want people to know about. I know one thing that you want to bring up, although you may have other stuff. But go ahead, Tony.
Well, I think first off, thanks to Mark at Rue Morgue for their excellent interview.
Yes.
Like, shout out. Thank you. That was really awesome. Again, as we started this as a good excuse to get together and hang out. And thanks for everybody who's listening who, I super appreciate that. But yeah, that was really great. And I like, having been in a dark wave band with Rain and, listening to dark music and Rue Morgue and being into horror, Rue Morgue's awesome. So,
I know
how cool, and the amount of work that went into it. I just can't. I really appreciate it. He said Drew and I were hilarious, which thanks. I know.
He called me the linchpin of the podcast. So,
you are the linchpin of the podcast. That's in print.
So.
Wow. And he's got a picture of the group. He's got a picture of the group. They're together with Julia in her full like voodoo.
Dia de los Muertos.
Yeah, Dia de los Muertos outfit.
That was such a fun time. Actually, that picture.
That was great.
All of that. That was
great. When they start having conventions again, we should do that again.
Hell
yeah, that would be cool. That's all. Yeah. So yeah, I really appreciate that. As far as other stuff, right before the podcast, I was doing an online screening for 36 Cinema. Has these really cool, I know I mentioned them before, but Michael Jai White was, they were doing live commentary for Sword of Doom. But there's tons of cool stuff. The RZA's coming back for, I think it's Shaolin versus Llama. Now there's like a live chat element that you can also do with their new platform. I don't do that as much because I tend to just want to watch the movie with the commentary, but they also have been recording them, so they're re-showing them. So, as a big martial arts fan, and cinema dork, it's really cool that they're doing these screenings, and they've gotten some really great guests to talk about things. To give these live commentaries. Back when I was growing up, I would have never imagined that I would be able to stream this kind of kung fu theater with experts and have their own takes on things. And last week's Jackie Chan movie with Scott Adkins talking about martial arts movies, and he's talking about I need to look up the podcast or show. I know we've talked about it, but he had a whole show with Cynthia Rothrock, who was amazing. And so I can't remember the name of it right offhand. Sorry, Mr. Adkins. I'll have to find and post it, but that kind of stuff, super cool. I just really enjoy what 36 Cinema has going on. And if you can catch a screening, I highly recommend it. They've got a lot in store and they've added a lot of features, and that's been one of those things that has been for this 2+ hours, because they often go long. I'm in my happy place. In addition to this, podcast being part of that, but it's been regular enough that I've been just super happy. I look forward to every time they announce a new movie. So super duper cool. I'll have to post the link. I retweet a lot. I don't know if anybody follows me on Twitter. But
I follow you on Twitter. So
thanks. I follow you, but I mostly mute you. Like, that's what I picture.
No.
Like, oh man, I wish.
Excellent.
Music, martial arts. You're muted, Tony. Oh, I accidentally played my hand. That would be hilarious. But anyway, although I'm also the weirdo, like, I know that social media is what it is, but I'll be completely honest. If I tweet something and then I see that I'm a numbers person, and so I see somebody has unfollowed me, I'm always, what did I say? What did I do? Even though I know that that's the nature of things. Like, I know that it's just, that's just happens, right? People leave the platform, like all number of things, but I'm such a weirdo about it. I'm like, did I offend somebody? Did I say something? And that's terrible for your psyche.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just me. Don't do that, people, if you can help it. That's not the way to approach social media, I'm sure. But for whatever reason, I'm always like, what did I say?
Huh.
I don't know. It's dumb. I try to
my heart
avoid
goes
that.
out to you.
I don't know.
I think that's pretty normal.
No, I know. But I know I know that it's the nature of things, but I don't know. It's just part of it.
I only feel that way if it's somebody if I know who did it and it's somebody I like, then I'm like, what?
Right. But see,
Why'd
Twitter,
that
you
happen?
can't really tell unless you subscribe to some service. And it's probably not somebody.
Yeah, it could be robots that they've killed, that the Twitter is shut down.
Right.
Yeah.
But I always, that's my weirdo mentality. That's how my mind works, is that like, what did I do? What did I, oh no, which is a stupid way to do things. I guess that's my other endorsement. Don't think like me in that respect, because that's so sad. It's terrible. Play Parcheesi in my underground cave with my.
That makes me sad, because you are an awesome human, so you shouldn't feel bad about yourself.
It's, I don't know. It is what it is. Like, I also realize the ridiculousness of it, and that's the other part. Like, once you know that that's really kind of ridiculous, it's, it makes it better. So whatever. I don't know. I'm rambling. Sorry.
No, that was great. I thought that was really good. And yeah, I'll start watching your followers more, just so that.
Yeah.
So the next time
I'll unmute you, says Jason.
You're like, hey, who left? And I'll be,
you did say some stupid things. What's wrong?
Oh, it was just this guy we used to talk to. He left. Okay, anyway. All right.
You're in a band, Deserts of Mars. I guess nobody knows that. It's Bandcamp Day again. Who would have thunk it?
People can say the weirdest stuff. Okay, Julia. Well, what do you want to endorse?
So we finally got around to watching Lovecraft Country. Oh my God, that's an intense ass show, man. I just was like, I had like, we watched last night is it the last episode that's come out, Jason? The one that we watched?
No, I think we've got one more that we haven't seen.
There's a new one this week.
Okay, I think we have two then left to watch so far. But anyway, so we watched the one where she gets the haunted house.
Yeah.
And oh my God, that episode made me feel so many feels. I was like, I had chills, literally goosebumps half the time. I was freaking out. And then I was just crying when all the stuff was happening at the end. Anyway, I'm not gonna spoil it for anybody, but it's so good. It's so good. It's so intense. Anyway, so that was really good. I did finish. I watched 42, and I've watched Get On Up, and a few other of. So
you're doing the whole Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah, but Chadwick Boseman's movies, and those, I'm still just so depressed about him, and just in awe of everything he's done. And then Jason and I are obsessed with the documentary about Nexium, the vow. Holy crap! Bless you. Holy crap! That cult is scary. And the funny thing is that after the first episode, they really don't get into the cult stuff at all. They just kind of introduce like how people came to join this group. And I was like, "Where do I sign up, dude? That looks like a great club."
Like, these guys seem great.
Like,
how can I join next?
Can I join them? And then you're like, oh no, oh shit. Yeah. So yeah, that's an interesting story about these poor people. Anyway, so those are my endorsements.
Thank you. That was wonderful. Mr. Drew, what do you have to endorse?
I have lots of things, but I feel like with very few exception, there aren't really things that need extra support. There are things that are already relatively popular. I'll start with the least mainstream of the bunch, and Tony will be very happy that I finally got around to watching The Color Out of Space, starring Nicolas Cage, directed by Richard Stanley. It's, as I said, it's been a fairly acclaimed movie. I really enjoyed it. Jamie and I both watched it together yesterday. It is not for the squeamish. It's definitely, if it has the ick factor of 1980s Lovecraft adaptations, with some added psychedelic elements to it. Nicolas Cage is interesting in this movie because he actually starts out a more subtle, more subtle than I think I've seen him in years.
Yeah, man, Stanley
got
everything we would want out of Cage.
Oh yeah.
And everything that you like, everything I've liked about his performances over time. It's great. I mean, the alpaca thing is kind of crazy.
Yeah, by the time he's screaming about alpacas, I was like, there is the Nicolas Cage I paid to see. But I enjoyed seeing this the more subtle, because he can be a pretty naturalistic actor when he wants to be. I did enjoy seeing that. But when it gets crazy, man, oh man. And again, I have to stress, this movie is not for everybody. Like, it is a deeply weird, trippy, gross, sad movie. But it is extremely good for those who are looking for sort of gonzo horror flicks. My next endorsement is also going to be for Lovecraft Country, which I did watch. I watched the 4th episode of it today, and I've liked every episode, but next to the very first one, which was just like a nearly perfect, hour of television, this one might be my favorite because it's an extended riff on adventure movies and novels, particularly Indiana Jones. And they even do like some John Williams style musical cues, which I thought was really cool. So I just enjoyed the hell out of this particular episode for this week. Interested to see where they're going to take it now that they've broadened, because the first 2 episodes are of course a Lovecraft pastiche, and then you have the haunted house thing. This episode, it seems like they're broadening, more than just sort of typical horror genre stuff. So I'll be interested to see where this goes from here. I also watched Cobra Kai, which doesn't need my endorsement at all. That's become a phenomenon. But I want to state for the few skeptical people, I am not a massive Karate Kid fan. Like, that is not really in my nostalgia bubble. Jamie is the Karate Kid fan out of the people in our house. I like the movies, but they're not movies that I go back to very often. Like, they're not my regular rotation. But I love the show. I think it is so it's really well written. The kid actors are more or less pretty good. The veteran actors from the original movies are terrific, and the writing is just really good. So like, it doesn't surprise me that it's just kind of taken streaming by storm, because it's just a really, really well done show. And I was surprised at how because I wasn't as into the idea of watching it as Jamie was. This is one that was more of a Jamie decision, like, let's watch this show, and I was just completely enthralled by it. So if you haven't watched it and you're skeptical, I would say go ahead and try it.
I'm glad it's on a service, like, because I did have all these people going, hey, I told you about this years ago and you guys never watched it. Like, how many subscriptions do you want me to have?
Right. I know.
Like,
but it's funny.
It.
I mean, it's been on YouTube Premium, I think, and now it's on
YouTube
Red.
Red.
It was on YouTube Red, and
no one was going to pay extra to watch stuff on.
Well,
YouTube.
Evidently, people did, and they love to tell you about it. Like, I get it, because it was really good. Like, I legit, all of my friends said, hey, if you get a chance. Now, some people did get the free one, but I didn't do that, and I've used those sometimes too. Amazon will do, hey, get a free week of such and such, and I'll figure out where the strategic time. But I have.
Go ahead. Sorry.
But like, I have Criterion, which I want all of that stuff. Like, I try to pick Night Flight covers stuff that Criterion doesn't. I have X amount of time and X amount of money. Yeah. So don't at me with that. Just now you're doing that. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, seriously.
It's a super good point. Yeah.
Like, I hate that because it's like, do I even want to watch it if you're gonna, like, I get it, and I've heard nothing but good. Like, everyone was going to get around to watching something good.
Yeah.
But come on, people, just let. You don't need the superiority thing. Just
don't lord and gatekeep Cobra Kai. That's a real John Kreese kind of thing to do.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just the funny thing is, I kind of feel like, well, first of all, I wish that the people who make these shows would re-promote them when they come to Netflix or whatever, because if you've got
hard
Netflix
too, because there's also there's a lot of contractual bits.
I guess that's true.
And then you can't blame anybody, because the YouTube Red was actually by all accounts was a really cool service. And they bought a bunch of, they paid and paid for a bunch of movies getting made, and people were working.
Well, what do they call it now? Is it just YouTube Premium? Like what? By the way, I have the service. I just don't use it. Because my daughter and I use it for music. So we have,
I guess
YouTube
they just kind of rolled it all together.
Yeah.
And, again, it is great. But that was my main thing, was just how many things I'm going to subscribe to, and what are my individual tastes.
Yeah.
And how do I want to broaden that? Right. But you don't have to. It's all just be cool. Be cool, honey bunny. Be like be good little Fonzies. And
I have not encountered a lot of this weird flex stuff of I saw that 2 years ago. But I'm sure.
So have you seen Cobra Kai yet?
I saw the first season. I haven't seen the second season yet.
I need to.
The second season.
Jason's been saying we need to get watching it, but we haven't.
The second season is insane. I am. I also was just really impressed with a lot of the stunt work, and there's a fight scene in the very last episode that goes on for a long time, and for stuff that's mostly young kids, I was really impressed with that. So I don't know, I can't wait for season 3.
And you're talking to somebody. I saw all of those movies, even the next Karate Kid, in the theater. So,
I'm not knocking the old movies. I do enjoy them. They're just not your nostalgia bubble will only fit so many things in it. And
that's the truth.
Sure. my there's a lot of space taken up by Friday the 13th and Ghostbusters. So Karate Kid only had so much.
Speaking of, the new Ghostbusters movie is coming out eventually, right?
Eventually.
I mean, the one with Paul Rudd?
Afterlife. Yeah, Afterlife. Yeah. I really wish they had done what the Bill and Ted people did, whereas they just released it in theaters, but also released it in drive-ins and streaming simultaneously.
Well, the pandemic is still young, so that could still happen. So
I have a lot of respect for the way they did the Bill and Ted movie. I think that they made wise choices for that. So one more thing, and then I'm done. I want to point out that all of the Halloween Man universe comics are still on sale for a few more days on Comixology. Some of them are as low as 50 cents. Jump on the Comixology, go read some comics. And if you think that my writing is so good and you are a comic book professional of some sort, you could go to ringoawards.com and vote for me for best writer. See, I brought it all home right there. One thing.
Well said.
Boom. Done. Yeah. Mic drop.
Oh, by the way, Drew, when you talked about filling your nostalgia bubble with Friday the 13th, did you see the new announcement about that Shout Factory box?
I am salivating over that.
I don't know, because I buy a lot of foreign, I bought the Flash Gordon set. I buy money I spend elsewhere. I have bought a lot of physical media that is a little bit more expensive than maybe I should. And I'm, because if we're not going out to eat a lot and stuff like that. So, but some of the new stuff I think has turned me, because Friday the 13th isn't my just ultimate horror, even though I really love it. I was on the fence, but now I think it's time to spend that cash.
I own all. It's gonna not surprise anybody to know that I own all of the movies already, but I think it's time to. Because they did a box set a couple of years ago, and I was but this one I'm okay, it might be time to upgrade.
Yeah, that's the one. Every time they announce a new thing, I just go, Okay, yeah. I need to have that on my shelf. So and I buy a lot from Shop Factory as well. So this one is, in fact, I just gave a bunch of stuff to my friend because I realized also what a sucker I've been on certain franchises. Like, I own 3 of these because it's like the DVD,
Sure.
Super DVD, the Blu-ray. Holy crap. And by the way, I have The Thing and Big Trouble in Little China for whatever reason were good Lord, I'm a sucker. Those were my purchases, right? Just would come across them like, oh, yeah, holy moly. But yeah, I'm super stoked about this Friday the 13th set. It looks expansive. I'm still making it through the Gamera set, though, because that thing's crazy. The amount of content on there, I'm really impressed. It's going to take a long time. Lots of giant turtle in my future for sure.
Fantastic. Okay, so really quickly, first of all, if you want to watch the Kolchak television series, that you can stream on NBC.com or on the NBC app on your Roku. So that is for free.
Is that free?
Oh yeah, that's free. So go ye therefore to NBC.com and you can watch Night Stalker, the television series. Pretty groovy. And let's see. Yes, the Rue Morgue, Mark Benedict wrote that article. It is swell. It is so neat. I am so touched because Rue Morgue is one of those magazines that I just really admire. And so, Mark Benedict did an interview with the group, and I think that's really great. Brianna Whipple did a review of Nightwalkers, completely coincidentally did a review of Nightwalkers, the nonfiction book that Castlebridge Media put out, and like the same month. So that's good. So Rue Morgue has been a big part of our world. And the last thing I wanted to mention is that over at the New York Times, Danielle Trussoni reviewed Nightwalkers in the New York Times book review this weekend, which is pretty awesome. So
it's a big time.
Yeah, no, my my weekend was really full with just happiness about that stuff. So yeah, and if you haven't read Nightwalkers yet, you definitely got to check it out. This weekend, I am actually editing the stories to go into our next Castle of Horror anthology, and I'm super stoked about that. And I will be sending out an announcement in the next few days about what you guys have heard some hints about, which is a Castle of Horror podcast book. More information to come. So yeah.
I look forward to the inevitable hairpiece promo photos.
Yes. I have to figure out a way like to Photoshop a hairpiece on
and the also the glitter bomb that I get from Julia.
Yes.
I'm just doing my best impression of our dog whenever she's annoyed.
You might be into the new Kolchakified, Jason. You're not even giving it a chance.
Yeah, we don't know. Yeah.
Lots of loud banter, that's for sure.
Well, that we have already, so.
Oh, well,
he's going to be constantly pounding his desk going, and this is news!
He does that a little bit now, but it usually is more related to like stuff that's going on with various work things or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's because his inner Kolchak is already, it just needs to blossom.
Has been ignited, yeah.
You too,
right.
Julie. You can be his Vincenzo.
Yes.
I'm the belly dancer.
Well, thank you,
better.
everyone.
That's better. Well, you have to conscript one of your daughters to tell her you're a loose cannon, Dad.
So right, exactly. Well, the weirdest thing happened. One of our daughters, we watched. It was my birthday, so they watched whatever I asked. It was, they're like,
whatever
watch
you
anything that you
a
want.
chair for.
And so I said, oh, you'll watch anything that I ask. Gosh, all right. So I said, let's watch the 2.5-hour 1967 Mark Robson film Valley of the Dolls. And
wait, you watched Valley of the Dolls with your kids?
Yes,
with one of them, yeah.
Just one of them, yeah.
Weird.
So and my 15-year-old loved it. She's now obsessed with Patty Duke as the as the pill popping, megalomaniac Neely O'Hara. And I'm just so happy about this because it is now a house full of appreciation for some of the best, like, just camp melodrama ever. And yeah, my work here is done. So
All right.
truly. Now
Next
she's
birthday-
dragging her friends into an appreciation of Valley of the Dolls. It's really,
Next birthday, Jason
well.
really chances it with the sinful dwarf. You'll watch anything, right? Let's test
Holy
this
fuck.
theory.
Well, wouldn't
That
the
one-
correct thing to be do beyond the Valley of the Dolls?
Oh no!
She made us take a quiz about what role we are in the slasher film, and I got the backstabbing friend that will like push my friend in the way of the killer so that I can get away, which I thought was really rude because all of my answers were about helping other people, but whatever. And she's the axe wielding maniac. So there we
Yes.
go. We live with the serial
Watch
killer.
yourself around that one.
Right.
Which one are you again, Jason? You were the like the jock who should have survived but doesn't or something. What was it?
That is exactly yes. The jock who you hope makes it but doesn't.
But doesn't.
There we go.
And then Sophia got the stoner. What was it? The something stoner. That's like the character that just
Resourceful.
accidentally survives. Resourceful stoner. Kind of accidentally survives.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, that was awesome. It's a funny
Yeah.
quiz. I don't know where she got it from, but it was funny. Anyway.
Anyway.
All right.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Be excellent. We will, guys. I'll see
Be
you
excellent.
in the middle of the week with our hangout episode. So have a. I think it.
Night.
I guess it's Kiss Me Deadly, and then we'll figure out what to do after that. Everyone, ciao. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Night.
Bye.